Yay.
All right. Let's see here. All right. Let's just jump in. Whenever she shows up, we'll take a break and then we'll, not really.
I got you.
And then we'll let her in. All right. Welcome to a new episode of The Usual Saints. I'm Mike D here this week with Saint. How you doing, Saint?
Doing all right. Could be better, but always get the podcast with you and whoever else decides to show up. So it's all good.
You mean just me because no one else ever shows up. That's fine. We were talking when we were recording the USSR. You were mentioning how what we were talking about day jobs or just shitty kind of stuff right now. So what's going on with you? I think we talked about last episode. You probably having a lead soon, and it turns out it's going to be sooner than we thought. So
yeah, as an update, when I originally, I had planned. Well, I have a new position on the boat, so I kind of just rotate me and another guy. We kind of rotate doing the purser position, and he's going to stay like a little longer. So I had to just figure out a time to go back to the boat. And I decided to go back this week, but I initially anticipated to go sometime. When I talked to the office, they told me it was probably going to be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, fly up. And my kids are flying in tonight, so I have to pick them up from St. Pete Airport. And so I was anticipating to get at least one day, to hang with them when they get back from their grandparents up in Maine, and hoping to do that. But instead, I'm leaving tomorrow in the morning. So basically, I have to pick them up tonight, wake up, turn around, drop them off. So I don't get really spend that much time with the kiddos. So that kind of sucked. And everything else been going on today has just been their flight's delayed another hour. I found out like not too long ago. It's just plus we had our little mini storm, tropical storm came through. Really didn't do anything. I mean, just more of a big annoyance. I think everyone was glad that it wasn't much to do about nothing. But yeah, having to go back up, and it's not the job itself, it's just being away from family. I mean, after a while it just gets kind of old, and I'm kind of ready maybe to do something where I just I'm home more, get to see the kids more. I kind of feel like they're growing up and I'm missing a lot. So just that.
we might get Saint crying in a minute here if we continue down this road.
Maybe.
Yeah, no, I mean, I get it. Listen, I miss my kid. She's only been gone 3 weeks, not even, and she'll be gone for another 3 before I go pick her up. But they grow up, man. My kid's 14. She's starting high school this year. Before I know it, she'll be out in college. My wife hates when I say that, but
right.
It's the truth, So
like 6 years, and I'm like, my daughter's gonna be off, and it's like, wow,
Yeah, right. I mean, it's hard to imagine when you've built a life with a family and you go home to that every day, even in your case, like when you come home you're there with them, and so that's the life. And then all of a sudden, I guess it might be that empty nest syndrome. I mean, right now me and Heather, we have a little bit of time to ourselves. We just go to dinner, we'll go shopping, we'll go see a movie, and we'll come back. So it's weird. I guess this is almost like showing us what in a few years it'll be like when Sophie's out of the house. But
right.
Yeah, I mean, jobs, we'll see. What are you going to be when you come back? An accountant? You're gonna you got some what's that purser do? What could that experience be used for? Can you apply for something math related or something? No? I don't know if that's what you want.
No, I mean, a purser, you're pretty much, you're like a records keeper slash stay over. Yeah, fancy word for a secretary, records keeper. I mean, we do other things on the boat, specifically because I work on a fisher boat, but most boats have a purser, whether it's cruise ships or even tugboats and stuff like that, making sure you have all your, I don't know, forms, permits, all that kind of bullshit. That's stuff I have to do. And you have to do extra stuff to work on a fishing boat. You have to do a lot of things with HR that I'm in charge of. But I don't know. I guess I was hoping to become a full-time podcaster slash whatever, but we'll see how that goes. Uh,
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how that goes. I mean, listen, if I could do this every day and just focus on this and do the social media and everything like that, that's one thing. But then like we've discussed, you got punk asses like our two other members who don't show up, and so it's just trying to keep it going. And it's not as easy as if I was doing a one person thing and I didn't have any other interests like family or movies or television or anything like that, where I wanted to divest my time. Yeah, I mean, I could put time into this. It's kind of like I have like 20 books that I need to read, and it's like, because reading's always on the back burner for me. So
even though I'm sure other podcasters have like families and movies and TV shows,
no,
you're just saying that if podcasting / whatever, YouTube and all that was your main job, then all that stuff could be taken. Which again, I envy the people whose jobs it is to podcast about movies and TVs and stuff we'd be doing anyway. So I mean, we could get there. I mean, keep the dream alive. Keep punching at it, but.
We'll see. We might take a break between season 2 and 3 of the main podcast if you go away and I can't get these dipshits to attend. But we'll see.
You're just really going in on man.
Oh, listen, man. I always love Jeremy and Vinny, but flakiness I don't like. So I'm not that way in my life. And I get everyone's got things going on. And the problem is, as soon as you leave, if I want to keep someone going on, I have to go off Jeremy's schedule, and he hasn't even been looking at the messages in Messenger. So that's okay, Jeremy. Yeah, it'll be okay. But tonight I'm excited because I got last minute kind of thing. I got a interview scheduled with. I got to figure out how to pronounce this. I figured out, I typed in the pronunciation on my browser. Effa Habermann is how the German lady in rightpronunciation.com says you pronounce it. So
we'll go by Effa, right?
Yeah, Eva, Effa, I don't know. I'm sure she'll correct us. But she was in the first one before we even got George Hardy on the show months ago. She was in a film called Under Control, which is technically tries to brand itself as Troll 3, which isn't even accurate because Troll 2 is actually a movie called Goblin that got rebranded as Troll 2 just to have some brand recognition. So I guess you could call it Goblin 2 or Troll 3. It's just a real B movie kind of silly, weird film. George was in it reprising his role from Troll 2. And then when I started talking to George and found out about Cyst and had the producers start emailing me and contacting me, and then we watched Cyst. Eva's in that as well, and she plays pretty much, I'd say, the main character. And I know you just watched Cyst, so we'll talk about that more with her. Right. So I'm excited. I always like talking to people, getting their story, and we'll talk to her with however long we have with her. And she's not just an actress; she became a producer, and we'll get more into that. She's CEO of her production company. And apparently she does voiceover too. I don't know much about that, so I'm interested in asking her about that and see if she does that like in animation or games or anything like that. So let's see. In the few minutes we have before she pops in, I guess the biggest news of the week in like pop culture and entertainment for me, and it happened right after we recorded our last show, was Richard Donner, the director of like Superman 1 and 2, the Lethal Weapon films, a big part of movies that I watched during my childhood, Goonies. He died, and he was 91, or I think he was 91. So, it's not unexpected, but still, and the weird thing was when I saw that article pop up on Twitter, I clicked the link to like Variety or something, and then the article was dated 2014. And so I thought to myself, did Richard Donner die in 2014? And I don't remember. And I said, oh, maybe. So I actually unretweeted it, undid the retweet. But then I searched a little bit more, and I had just been like one of the first people to see it pop up on Twitter. I just happened to look at it at the right time. And then everyone started posting about it after I put it back out. I just wanted to confirm because I didn't want to post some old ass article. So, I mean, I'm assuming we watched a lot of the same films. I'm sure you watched obviously the ones I mentioned. What do you think of Richard Donner's filmography? Did that play a role in your childhood growing up or young adulthood?
I'd say more young adulthood, but yeah, man, when you look through his filmography, It's just a lot of classics for me. Goonies, and I just got my kids to watch. I'm pretty sure they watch it here. They either watched it here or at their grandparents' house. But Goonies is one of my all-time favorites, just because it's a classic. Kids getting together. It just feels. It's funny because it feels like a Spielberg movie, even though it's not. And to me, it's always the best of. To me, that's like classic 80s good time movies that you enjoy from the 80s. And just like I have that movie on Blu-ray and I've watched it probably, I don't know, 5-6 times and still come back to it and still appreciate and love it every time. So when you see that, but you also see the other stuff he does, like The Lethal Weapon, Superman, The Omen, sorry. Dude had range. I mean, dude could do all different kinds of movies. I mean, there's always, I guess, a comedic element to it, but just seeing the diverse kinds of films that he was involved with. I mean, I didn't know he did Scrooge, which for me is, I like it because you could have easily with Bill Murray just done another basic a Christmas Carol movie, but Scrooge was a very interesting twist on it. And they go from that to Superman to The Omen and then Lethal Weapon. I think really just gives us, a great appreciation that some people, like, no matter what was that? Was that your cat?
That's my dog.
Oh, dog. Sorry. Oh, didn't mean to be insulting. But to me, it just shows like some people, man, no matter what you put in front of them, they're just able to do it. And I when you look at his resume, I mean, I guess when we talk about great directors, I don't know about you, but for me, it didn't seem like he was often mentioned. I mean, we use Spielberg, Scorsese, who else? I'm losing my train of thought right now. Francis Ford Coppola.
I have different, Tarantino. I mean, you got
Tarantino.
Different. You got to cross the board. But from the, late 70s to I'd say maybe mid 90s, I mean, he was one of the more reliable directors. I mean, his last film he directed was 16 Blocks, which I think had Bruce Willis and Mos Def in 2006. I believe.
Right.
He did Timeline, which I wasn't a big fan of. Is that the one with Paul Walker? It might be. He did all 4 Lethal Weapons. He did Conspiracy Theory, which had, I think, Mel Gibson and Jodie Foster.
Right. Oh, no. Mel Gibson and what's her name? Julia Roberts.
Julia Roberts. Okay.
Right? Julia Roberts.
And Assassins. Who's in Assassins? Was that Antonio Banderas?
That's Antonio Banderas and Sylvester Stallone.
Right.
Which, again. So, and then Maverick, which actually I'm not that big of a Maverick fan when it comes. I mean, compared to Tombstone.
We're gonna take a break. Yeah, Ava's in the waiting room. So
all right.
So we're gonna take a quick break, and we'll be right back, and maybe we'll discuss it a little bit more. Further down the road with Richard Donner. I don't want to short shrift him, but we'll see. You've been listening to The Usual Saints. We'll be right back. All right, here we go. Welcome back to The Usual Saints. I'm Mike D here with Saint and our special guest interview, Effa Haberman.
Yes, that's me. Hello. You said it correctly, Effa. Yes.
Effa. All right. So we're going to get into how I discovered your work. I was unaware of you until I went about and found Troll 3, Under Control, Troll World, however you want to say it. And that's my first exposure to you. And since then, it's led me down a rabbit hole of, learning more about you, seeing Cyst, which is another thing we're going to talk about, and just seeing what you've done in your career. It's interesting because in our podcast, we like to talk a lot about pop culture, whether that goes sci-fi, comics, that kind of stuff. Movies, we're big into movies. So just first, I want to thank you for being with us tonight and talking to us about your world that you get to live in, that me and Saint, I think, are both envious of. We both are movie geeks and would love to be involved in film and TV and things like that. So,
well, next time you have to be an extra in a movie, in a horror movie, and you get eaten or killed. Something. We'll come up with something, I promise.
That would be awesome. I would love to get eaten in a horror.
All right.
But let's see. So I know Saint just started with Sis, but I want to start a little bit with what, because I want to do a whole introspective with you a little bit, not like hours and hours long, but what made you want to become an actor? I mean, you were I think you were what, 16, 17 when you got your first actual role or something, but I think you had started before that doing singing, dancing, that kind of stuff. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. Basically, I always wanted to become an actress. I just loved being on stage and performing or composing songs, and like at my school, and then being on stage playing with my guitar. And I just wanted to become an actress. And so I started taking singing lessons and voice lessons and acting lessons to be well prepared for an acting school. But then it went faster than I thought. And I was sort of discovered for a German TV series at the age of 17. And it was just like a normal audition in the newspaper, which my sister had sort of cut out and put on my table and said, you have to go there. And then that worked out. And afterwards, I started hosting a really weird children's show with ghosts. And also the funny thing about that, or actually, I'm really sorry about that, because it was sometimes a little bit drastic, because I played somebody sort of like in an agency who takes care of problems with ghosts. So one time, for instance, also they kidnapped my teddy bear. And I was like just totally devastated. And then we got really, like from the parents, we got like evil emails saying, you can't do this, you cannot kidnap, because kidnapping a teddy bear is a serious thing. I mean, it sounds like it's not so bad, but sort of like that is like a real person to a kid. So I've always been into sort of like fantasy stuff. And afterwards, I was auditioning for Lex, the Dark Zone, for a sci-fi show. And so these things seem to attract me. I just really like doing things that are a little bit out of the box and exciting.
And yeah, I noticed that. I mean, would you say that you talked about the children's show, and I think the other show you were talking about, that's Immenhof. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah, Immenhof. Okay. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was your first role, but you get the role on Lex of Zev Bellringer, right? And yes. So that like you said, it attracted you. It's a different genre than probably what you had worked in before. What was that like? I mean, and would you say that was that the first exposure you had to more of an audience outside of Germany, being the Canadian-German broadcasting production company that did it?
Definitely. And for me, it was really exciting because when I went to the audition, they had been looking for either a male actor or a female actress from Germany for the co-production. So either Kai or Zev would have been German. And then when I walked into the audition, the casting director from Toronto basically said to me, "It's you. You are Zev." And I was just going like, oh, this is kind of weird. And then he asked me to do the scene. And afterwards, he was all excited, already saying, okay, you got the job. And I was like, still a little bit doubtful. And I went home and I was so moved and overwhelmed, because that's a very rare experience you have as an actress, that somebody goes right away, "It's you." And I was just crying. And my mother thought I wouldn't have gotten the part. And she was hugging me saying, "Oh, Eva, don't worry about this. You'll get it next time." I said, "No, they want me to come over to get it." Oh my God. And I was so excited. And then they had me fly over to Canada a month later, and we colored my hair light blue, and I did Lex. And that was such an amazing experience, because what I really like is sort of like diving into an artificial world. I really like shooting inside a studio, because it's almost like on stage. It's nothing to do with the real world. So when we were shooting in Halifax. We got picked up in the morning at around 5 o'clock, sort of like in the dark. We went into the studio where everything was under one roof. The carpenters, the prop guys, like everyone. And when you finished in the evening at 8 o'clock, you went out and it was dark again. So you spend the whole day in Lex, sort of like in the studio. And I just really enjoyed this, because it gets very intense and very I don't know. I just love these things coming together and all these creative people working on something, because these things are fun because you don't get to do them every day.
Right. All right. And speaking of that, the theater part, do you have a preference? Obviously, you say that with theater, you can kind of be in the zone almost more rather than having to shoot on location or outside. Do you have a preference to doing like stage work or filmed work, like television or movies or anything?
Well, I like both. What I like in theater, that it's more exciting. You get like really a rush of adrenaline every day because you never know what to expect. You also don't know what to expect from your fellow actors. I had, for instance, one co-actress, she played my mother, and she was a very moody person. And you would never know what mood you would meet her in. And one time she had just been upset with all of us. I don't know for what reason. So just before we started going on stage, she was hiding because she had a bad conscience and she didn't want to talk to any of us. So like 1 minute before going on stage, she wasn't there. And then all of a sudden she crossed my path and I wanted to talk to her. I said, hey, where have you been? And she said, not a word, I'm not going to speak with you. I said, well, we are going on stage in a moment and then you'll have to speak with me. And we had a big fight scene in the beginning. So it worked really well. But like you meet so many crazy people out there. I mean, it is exciting. Sometimes it's also really hard, but this is part of the excitement of getting to know so many different characters of people, how they are like. And also on stage, you have to improvise. Like if somebody because like on stage, actually, it is true that I haven't had one show where all of the actors were perfect, where none of them wouldn't sort of miss a line. And then it's really fun. You have to come up with something to get this other person back on track. And then it gets like, didn't you want to tell me something about your mother? The other person still goes like, you did want me to tell you something, mother. Oh, yes. And then, but these are mostly the situation where it's most realistic, where afterwards the audience asks you, oh, I loved that moment. That was so intense. And basically it was just sort of like communicating about something that's not working out.
Right.
So
right.
I love excitement. I'm a thrill seeker. If to put it that way.
That's great. I mean, that probably helps with your profession because, I mean, you get to play those different roles, but you also, when you do go do a film, like I'm going to get to Witness to a Kill, where you filmed in South Africa, I believe. I don't know if you've been to South Africa. I've never been to South Africa. I always wanted to go. And so it's just those experiences that, you're doing your job, you're shooting something, but at the same time, you get to experience something that maybe you hadn't experienced before. And that's probably a great appeal for you as a thrill seeker.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you get to know so many countries and so many people and different situations. And usually there are always these stories behind the scenes that are way more crazy than actually the movie is. Or actually, I think the less crazy the movie is, the more intense it gets behind the stage. And the more crazy it is, the more normal the people are behind it. I like so many really weird things, whatever. It's like backstage and an actor threatening the gaffer to beat him up because he sort of went out with the girl he had sort of wanted to go out with. Or really, it just you just can't believe it. It's really insane in a way. And by the way, I don't know if you know the movie Sky Sharks. Sky Sharks is also a movie. Or are you getting shocked about it in that moment? Because that has also come out yet. It will come out in Germany in the movie theaters. So it had been postponed because of COVID. And now it looks like it's finally coming out. And also that was such a adventure trip. It took them 6 years basically to finish it because they ran out of finances. And it was just it's really, and also when I see the movie, I see it with different eyes because sometimes they had really high budgets. So parts of it looked like a Hollywood movie and parts of it looked like a soap opera because that's just the phase where they didn't have any money. And so if you know the behind the scenes or you know what stage they were in, you see, okay, they didn't have any money. So they hired their friends to do some characters. So it's really funny. I just love this business because it's so unpredictable and exciting.
Yeah, I saw the trailer for Sky Sharks today. So
Oh, God, you saw that too, right? Yeah.
yes, it is very interesting. Is it? I mean, it almost looks like, and I know some people online were comparing it, and I haven't seen the other films. The films Iron Sky and whatnot about the Nazis in the sky and on the moon and everything. Is this like an unofficial sequel or anything like that, or is it just in the same vein? Or
No, basically, I think it was an idea. Actually, the director tells us this way. It's Mark Feser, that they were really drunk one night. And then they came up with, I want to do a movie with sharks. And the next one said, oh, yeah, with flying sharks. Okay. And with Nazis. Okay. That sounds amazing. And with naked women and with real porn stars. So actually in the movie, in Sky Sharks, there are quite a lot of porn stuff where they're like porn stars. There isn't like porn happening, but for the scenes where they're like covered in blood and running around naked, he wanted to have people who are at ease with that. Right. And so I met, for the first time, I met real porn stars, and I was just like interviewing what it's like. And there was this couple who basically just films themselves while they're having sex and show it on the internet, and they make tons of money with it, and told me how easy and how much fun it is. And so also that was an amazing or fun experience. But there they were just there to sort of like to be at ease with, because like in Sky Sharks is just about, actually it represents the director who also wrote the script, sort of like he loves sex, he loves women, he loves violence, and he loves horror movies. And so this is what it has become.
Nice. All right. I mean, I think Game of Thrones almost did the same kind of thing. They recruited a lot of porn actresses because they were, like you said, comfortable with their bodies and comfortable with the nudity that the show was going to require. And so it only makes sense because, you know, a lot of actresses or even actors, I don't want to say just actresses. A lot of people have in their contracts, hey, you know, I have a no nudity clause, or, you know, you have to get a stunt double or a body double. And so someone who's comfortable with that, it only makes sense, especially in an extra sort of role, or even if they had some dramatic chops, maybe they could get a role and then they wouldn't even mind, you know, showing their nudity, you know, but yes. I digress.
Yes. Yeah.
With Sky Sharks, I wanted to talk about it. So your company, Phantom Film, is the production company for that, right?
No, Sky Sharks, we co-produced it.
Co-produced,
so
okay.
That was just a co-production because I was in it as the main actress, and low budget, running out of money, and so they just needed some help. So you see, if I do there are so many low budget production that never make it to be released, and I just hate the thought of people who've got a dream and a vision that the movie just sort of get stuck somewhere and never sort of comes to life. And so this is something I cannot see. My heart bleeds. And so we were like almost finished. And then again, so Sky Sharks, we were just co-producing.
Okay. Well, I mean, I really admire that. And I know that we'll get into that. That's the entire, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, the entire reason you founded your production company is because you went to finish Under Control or Trolls World, yes, which couldn't get finished in the first place. And you didn't want to see it languish. And I think one of the directors or creators of Trolls World is actually part of your production company, right? Alexander Koenig?
Alexander Koenig, we found, he's also part of my production company. A Phantom Film. And also like Phantom Film has sort of, our goal is to do something that's always out of the box. That's sort of like unusual. That's sometimes not so easy because then people sort of are going like, oh, I don't know if you should buy it because if we show it, we don't know. Because we did another movie just recently, which actually is about depression and alcoholism. And I thought, okay, this is the right way to go. It's sort of artistic and serious and psychological. And again, they say, oh, no, you cannot show that. That's too much. It's too much reality. So I'm just doing things that move me and that where I think, I want the audience to feel something like in any way, either be like amused or terrified and so I just like creating strong feelings with movies because to me, that's what movies are for.
Definitely. I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. And that's one of the reasons I'm such a cinephile myself is I go there for an emotional reaction. If I go to a film and I don't get that, I almost don't appreciate it as much. Not the work that was put into it, because, you know, a lot of people may not have the ability to control how the film turns out in the end, but I go there for the emotional response, whether it's nowadays with the high quality television shows that they have or a good film, I can just go see it. And sometimes you just want to go for a laugh. Like, I mean, I feel like we could all be honest. I don't know if Saint's seen it. Under Control, I think you said you did that for fun, right? It's pretty much
for absolute fun. And and also again, this movie also had, often there are like budget solutions. For instance, the little troll was supposed to look really scary, but unfortunately it looked like a little green dwarf and it didn't look that scary. Actually, children liked this movie too. And so that sort of like changed the whole thing, but things just happen for a reason sometimes. And maybe this was the better choice, but some things you just cannot change. So the troll wasn't supposed to be sweet and green. It was supposed to be scary, but it didn't really turn out to be scary, but that doesn't matter.
No, I mean, that film, there's one part, I forget the exact line, but I know there was a part where the wizard is in the forest and you hear a line like off camera, like, you're not supposed to be there, or something weird, like it sounded like it was off camera line. Yes.
Yeah, no, I know, but we dubbed it. We dubbed it also where he said like, am I already on screen? So like,
that made me laugh.
And also like, yeah, when we edit movies, I also we like to edit in things actually that were not sort of like where the actor wasn't acting yet. Like for instance, in Under Control, there's one scene where George was just loosening his shoulders going like that. And we edited it in. And it's so insane because it's such a natural, well, it was just like him privately doing something. So that's also fun. So if actors, they always have to be prepared that they are being filmed. And that's the moments, I like the moments where people don't control themselves, when they are not like aware, I'm acting, I'm putting on a show, where they're not acting, because that's usually the most private, true moments in a way.
Right. No, totally. I get it. And the one you were speaking about, the more dramatic one that your company's putting out, is that The Ugly Truth, the one you were talking about?
Yes, The Ugly Truth. Yes.
And you are starring in that as well, right?
Yes.
Okay.
That one, yeah.
Go ahead. Tell us a little bit about it. I haven't seen a trailer or anything for it. I mean, just based off reading it and seeing, you know, the poster, it seems like a fairly different role than I've seen you in, from the horror / comedy of Cyst to Under Control. So I wanted to know a little bit more about it. And obviously it's something I feel like, just from the way you talk about it, you're proud of, you know, that you guys can put out stuff that is different. It doesn't have to focus on one genre. Yeah.
So this movie, I also wrote the script for with the director. And my goal was to do a mainstream movie that's sort of like watchable, like not totally art house, with a serious theme. So during the course of the movie, you realize, because it's very, actually the plot is that it's just like a father, mother, and and her daughter. And the mother is getting serious depressions because she had an accident and won't ever be able to walk again, because the doctors have made a mistake and they cannot prove that they made a mistake. But anyway, like, her leg is ruined. So she gets depressions. The father cannot take it and sort of just falls in love with this really young girl. The daughter cannot help her mother and is just telling her father, please do something. She's just drinking nonstop and she's going to kill herself. And so it's like a downward spiral that just starts out like a normal, like a family that's still sort of okay. But also, like, while the audience watches it, they sort of don't realize the point where it's already too late, because then it's like a downward spiral and everything goes really, it gets very intense. I don't want to spoil anything, but it's just sort of like, in this movie, it's about saying, oh, everything will be all right. But it's not going to be all right if you don't do anything. So this is sort of the message of the movie: do something. Just don't sort of like try to cure yourself with pills or with alcohol. You have to do something. You have to take it seriously. And running away from the ugly truth won't help anybody. So this is like, and we're sending it on festivals right now. It's also been finished this year. Okay. So it's brand new and it hasn't been shown anywhere, but it's like, as we speak, it's being sold sort of like our distribution is selling it in Cannes. And I'm really interested how the response will be, because in Germany, very interesting. We sort of already offered it to a few networks, and they basically said to us that the subject of depression is not relevant to their audience. And I thought, oh, wow, that's good for Germany. I doubt that it's true, but they sort of say it's too realistic in a way. In a way, I don't care. You see, I just want to do things I have fun with and I believe in, and I think they are entertaining. Because if you don't do if you always try to please others and to do what people say, then you always have to be afraid of making a mistake. And I'm like, in my sort of like 3 years of a producer now, I made so many mistakes, I wasted so much money on things that were unnecessary, like bad calculations, weird decisions, but still it's a learning process. And I just love what I'm doing. It's so much fun creating something and seeing it come together. And it was also like with your movies, sometimes you watch them and you think this is the worst thing you've ever seen. And then you haven't seen it for like 3 months and you think, wow, this is fantastic. So it's always like it's a love-hate relationship with movies and the makers.
All right. I don't know much about the German like television or film scene. Is it much different filming something there than in like North America with Lex or with Cyst or anything you filmed in North America?
Well, I think in Germany, they are still very conservative about what they sort of believe in. I don't know how it is right now, but like about 4 years, they said generally would never support genre movies, because like Germany is the most supported. Like if you do a movie, you can sort of go to the state and get sort of like money to get some support. But they basically just said, we don't support genre movies, which sort of comes across really weird to me. What do you support then? Like intellectual movies about World War II or what? But so things are changing very slowly. But I think the Germans at the moment are really very much behind. And that's also why we get to a lot of, I mean, there's so many like fantastic international series. I also, just to be like a little bit more courageous. But if you never try something new, then you'll never find out. And because like if you always do the same things over and over again, also the same sort of stories, because they say, oh, we cannot do that to the audience. The audience wants to see this or this. How do they know? They don't know. So if you don't try it out, so you have to try it out. It's always about taking risks. But at the same time, I believe if you put a lot of enthusiasm and love in your work, there will be a result.
Definitely. And talking about that, since you said you co-wrote The Ugly Truth, how did what you wrote on the page turn out on the screen? Did it turn out like you expected? Were there notes you had like for the director or for the actors in that role? Or obviously you were one of the actors.
Yes. Well, it actually turned out of course, it always sort of like a written script is always just the base on what the actors. So the story has to work in a way, but then what the actors make of it is most important. And I'm really proud of all my actors, because I just love them like a mom, because I also casted each of them. And in a way, I hadn't known them. I just watched them. And also like for the chemistry, I sort of like cast them more for what I see in them than what they do. And what I really also like, that's what also basically you find that in Cyst, you find that in Under Control, and you also find it in The Ugly Truth. I always like to cast actors which play parts they haven't played before, because that's where actors all of a sudden wake up and go like, wow, that's like exciting. I sort of get out of my comfort zone. And that's where interesting things start happen.
Right.
And so like also the actors like on Ugly Truth, also, I just casted them for parts they usually never get to play, like somebody who's got very conservative and is like the star of Sunday night love movies. And there he's just really a bad, horny guy and just talks about women. And it's just get out of that path. I just like freedom of like art and of acting, because when you act or when you do movies, you can do anything, because you can always say it's just a movie. But at the same time, it's a little rebellion of myself against things that are already there and that I want. I just like creating chaos. I think that's the point.
That's great. I love that. Do you have a favorite genre that you enjoy performing in, or maybe one that you haven't done yet that you're interested in performing in? Obviously, sci-fi was one of your first things, and you've done horror more recently. Anything in particular that stands out to you that you just absolutely love? I know you've done more comedies too. You did that Ocean's 11 takeoff, right? What was it called? Aussie's 11, I think.
Aussie's 11. Aussie's like from East German. And you see, like Aussie is like West Germans and Aussies, and they sort of try to make this big like coup, and everything goes wrong, of course, because they no experience sort of in sort of like committing such a big crime. And I don't really know, because like there are so many. I always love the characters I play and I get into them, but I tend to like things, what I said earlier, just sort of like that are sort of being surreal, like either sci-fi or fantasy or horror, just sort of creating new worlds and just doing something totally different than you usually get to do.
Okay. And I feel like Sist is definitely something different. I mean, it's a period piece from what is it, the 60s, would you say?
From the 60s, yes.
60s, okay. It's been a few months since I saw it when I first got the link a few months ago before we interviewed George Saint. I wanted to give him an opportunity to speak on it, having just freshly watched it. I love a nice gross out horror film, and some people say, yeah, I think there's a comedic undertone to it, but I wouldn't call it a comedy. I feel like it's a straight up like B gross out horror movie, like, and it's got all the elements there, and the acting. I mean, I like Greg Sestero, Jason. What's Jason's
Douglas?
Name?
Douglas.
Yeah.
Oh, they were fantastic. And especially Darren Ewing, also from Troll 2, as his assistant Preston. I mean, George and Darren hadn't seen each other since Troll 2. They hadn't seen each other for 25 years. And actually, to tell you, I think George wouldn't put it that way, but it's thanks to George that this movie exists. Because actually, George's basic plan was, after he shot Under Control with us in Germany, he had been shooting a movie with Tyler Russell, with the director, called Texas Garden. And there was George in Alabama sitting there. And then he decided, I want to do a movie with this director and with my favorite actress, with Eva. And so this is how we got together. And he sort of set us up like on a blind date well, not a blind date, but he set us up in Cannes and said, oh, you just meet. And then like 4 weeks later, they were already coming up with this idea of Sist. At the moment, at first I said, oh, that just sounds gross. Oh my God, this is just crazy. I don't know. But in that year, I had a lot to do with George, because like we are really good friends, Alex and I, and we came over and we had Under Control dubbed in Austin, and we had English voice artists like Christopher Sabat and Jason Douglas. Also, he was playing the troll. We had a lot of like cartoon characters, because we wanted to give the Americans something they can relate to and say, I know that voice. And so that year was also like, and then we just came over in summer, not really expecting anything business-wise. And there was George and Tyler coming up with a script. Look, we wrote a script. Shall we read it? Sort of, that's how it started. But it's all thanks to George Hardy, who is not making movies, he's plotting movies.
That's great. George, Saint unfortunately didn't get to interview George, but he was a great interview. He was open and honest, and he was funny the entire time. And so I can get the appeal what you see in him. I mean,
yes,
Under Control was probably a weird experience, but you had fun with it. But then just taking that guy, he seems such like a larger than life personality, everything he does, and to put him in this character of Dr. Guy, which is just insane. I don't know. I thought it was a great a great horror movie. I hadn't seen one in a while like that. Something unexpected, a little monster. I don't want to spoil anything, so I don't know. We'll bleep out anything we're not supposed to say. But a little turn to the film, let's say.
No, but George also, like in that, he has to play a character that's really narcissistic and quite evil. And he kept telling me about the nightmares he had during the shoot. And he started saying to me, Eva, I start being afraid of myself. I'm so real. I said, George, don't worry about this. No, I'm so evil. And he's so lovely, because what I like about him is that actually he's not like sort of like he didn't go to acting school or anything. He's just natural, and but he's so passionate about it. And so we always went through the lines, and he asked me, so what can I do here? And why am I doing this? And so we were just also figuring out a really great backstory. What you usually as an actor, you sort of write your own biography, where you come from and what you are. And he had such an amazing ideas. Like, for instance, Cyst was sort of, it plays in the 60s. So we sort of I asked George, so how did Dr. Guy get the money for his practice? And then he said to me, my neighbor, in his fantasy, he was selling alcohol, which he wasn't allowed because of the prohibition. They weren't allowed to sell it back then. And so he says, Dr. Guy said to his neighbor, okay, if you don't want me to go to the police, just give me $15,000. And he would do that. But then he would go to the police anyway and get also money from them. So this is basically how Dr. Guy founded his practice. And so everything about this guy is just wrong. Like, you see, Dr. Guy, the professor, he's just very narcissistic and very egocentric, and he has got this dream of making a machine to get famous, and he wants to impress everyone. And me, as his assistant, who actually he's sort of in love with, he wants to impress me with creating a machine. And all I do is say, no, don't use this machine, it's dangerous. And so it's also like in a way, it's also an emotional plot that you don't really see. You just get little glimpses of it. But I really thought I liked the idea that a man is inventing something for a woman, and she doesn't want him to show it to anybody because it's dangerous. So it's also about like this sort of like, in a way, love-hate relationship between the two main characters, because even like also in a horror movie, there have to be emotions. Emotions always come across in whatever you do.
Right. I totally agree. And George is absolutely lovely. During our interview, he said, "Oh, you guys have to come to my home in Alabama and come hang out on the lake with us." And I actually was going to take him up on that. We were planning on going to a convention.
You have to do that. It's amazing.
I'm going to.
It's amazing. It's so sweet. And he's got a boat. We were there 2 years ago on the 4th of July. And watched the parade there on the lake. He's like, he's got little dogs that go like, wow, wow, wow. Frisbee, they call it. George is just like, it's his own little universe. He's amazing.
All right.
Say, and you have to see him as a dentist. You have to see his dentist, like his practice. Yeah.
I will see the practice. I don't know if I'll get a cleaning. Not that I have anything against George, but I have my cleaning here next month. We'll see. Maybe I'll get a cleaning from George Hardy. That'd be a story to tell for the rest of my life.
Absolutely. But also, I don't know if he'll lose any clients, because if they see how crazy he gets, as Dr. Guy insists, they probably will cancel their appointment, being afraid that he might kill them accidentally.
Are you saying you think he took some of his experience as a dentist for Dr. Guy?
No. Actually, like for his handwork, like forever, what he does, it looks very professional, because he's got the very still hands, and it looks very real, the way he does things, and also how he talks to clients. Like, not the Dr. Guy way, but still there is something he can use from that experience very well.
Right. All right, Saint. Talk to Aoife about Cyst. What were your thoughts on the movie, or what questions did you have for her about that?
Yeah, first, Aoife, thanks for being on with us. I watched it just the other day, and I really like when the use of classic B movie horror tropes that was in it. It felt very campy, very fun. It seemed like all the actors seemed to be having a lot of fun. But what really caught me by surprise is how physical it was, especially for your character. It seemed like every other scene you were getting something squirted at you or you're getting knocked around. So I just wanted to know for you as an actress, and I guess you're the lead of this movie. It's going through your perspective. For you, having to take such a role, being so physical, is that something that you enjoy doing, or like the other movie, you were saying? To be a more emotional part where you have to do more acting, which do you find more engaging to you? Do you enjoy the physical stuff where you might get, blood or I don't know what you call cis juice squirting on you, or,
it's pus.
the more
it's not really, I don't
right.
get any blood really. I get mostly pus. And the question is like, also, I was really curious for Germany because it will also come out in Germany, how they would rate that. Because I imagine it for them to sort of judge it, is pus 18 or 16? But pus is also 18. So I was surprised because I thought because that's sort of like something you're not so used to, like how do you rate goo or pus? But I love doing physical stuff. But physical stuff also is sort of attached to emotions of being really mad at somebody, of beating somebody up. And I love this one fighting scene where basically Dr. Guy and I are just sort of trying to almost kill each other.
Right.
And that was almost my favorite scene of the whole movie and also of shooting it, because that's just so unusual that you get to do that.
And also it's that scene where you kind of get the idea that Dr. Guy is actually in love with your character, that, the emotion that's coming out of there, that's kind of like a marriage that falls apart. And obviously he's, a crazy person. He's borderline abusive, or he is abusive, but it comes from a place where he actually is in love with your character. I found that very interesting, that through a fight scene that you show no, this guy, he's in love with her, or maybe he doesn't know how to show it, or I don't know, maybe
because he's actually jealous of me wanting to save Bill. So that's why he doesn't want me to get out and I get really mad at him. Yeah, but that scene was very, very special and very much fun. And we also, of course, we had great stunt guys because some things we just couldn't do. But most of the things were done by ourselves. And also I'm putting I'm breaking sort of a jug on his head. And we were both terrified of it. I was going I cannot put a jug on his head. And George was scared. So there's one screenshot where you see that he goes like this, and before I hit his head, I go like that because I felt so bad. It feels so wrong. I mean, it is like sugar glass, so nothing will happen, but still, it just feels wrong because I really like George, and I think also because we do have a really good connection that really helps it sort of to get this sort of people to show these two that have known each other for ages in a way.
Right, and we do a lot of Saint and I. We went to San Diego Comic-Con. What's it been? Almost a decade now. Jeez, it's been a while. Do you do a lot of conventions over in Europe, or do you get over to North America for a lot of conventions to see fans? I mean, obviously with COVID, that's a different thing. It changed some things and whatnot. But do you have that chance to interact with fans, get that one-on-one personal connection, get autographs, whatever they do, pictures? I don't know what they do.
I actually really love doing that, but I haven't been to so much conventions. I actually can't tell you why. I don't know if there's more going on in America. I've been in Vienna to a FedCon, but I really like that. I also do have a fan club, whom at the moment we do Zoom meetings every 2 months for an hour. And I just answer questions and talk to them. So that's really nice. And also they are the guys I'm doing this for. I want to entertain people and not just and they appreciate it. And they also they just experience sort of like my fan club has existed since 2002. So it's been a long time, almost 20 years. And so we sort of grow older together, and they sort of see all the faces I went to and what I got to play. Because at a time, for 10 years, I was the romance queen of Germany, sort of doing all these Sunday night movies, very large audience always, but playing this sort of lovely girl where the mother of somebody would like me to marry him, like sort of like that, sort of like the image, what people sort of connect with me. So at the moment, it's also sort of like a rebellion of saying like, I do something else now, because honestly, also like an actress has got like, I think every actress has got her best phase between 20 and 30. And afterwards, you're sort of like being sorted out after a while, because it's very hard afterwards to survive. And so that's also why I started doing my own movies, because I said, okay, if you don't see me in those characters, because the thing is, if you've always been like sexy and pretty, that lasts sort of like for a time, but afterwards you have to get more into these character roles. But if nobody gives you these character roles to play, sort of you have to show them, because like they don't have the imagination to imagine you in other parts. So this is also why I sort of produce my own movies, because that's finally where I can show them other sides of myself, because that is, in a way, to me, I don't want to like be dependent on, hopefully somebody discovers that I can also do this or that, because it is difficult. But I mean, being a producer is no less difficult, but still it's very exciting. And also you can sort of, you're more of your own boss. Oh, I cannot hear you for some reason.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was my microphone. Okay. My dog was barking in the background. I was trying to turn that off.
Yeah, okay. What kind of dog do you have?
It's a chocolate lab. She's out with my wife in the other room, but I hear her barking. So
I love dogs. Dogs are so sweet.
She's a big sweetie, but she's a year and a half old, and she doesn't know her energy, and she doesn't know to stop jumping on people, even though we've had her trained. So eventually, hopefully, she'll get to the point where she's a little calmer.
Well,
but yeah, right now she's out of the room. No, I mean, I totally get what you say. You know, you hear about, I don't know if it's ageism or, you know, people, producers, the people who make those decisions, putting people in certain categories, like you said. And I think that's a very smart thing to start producing your own stuff. Not that you are by any stretch of the imagination a category beyond anything else. I know you always describe yourself in the roles that you were cast on early on. What is it? Hot, blonde, and sexy, or hot, young, and blonde, or something like that. That was the three words you kind of used. And so to be able to make those decisions, like whether you're writing it or producing it, and being able to help yourself advance your career to where you want to be. I mean, that's kind of the smartest thing you could do, I would think. And that's one. I mean, you're CEO of a production company, and you can kind of help make those decisions. Not that you're forcing yourself in a role, but you can get a role that you think you deserve because A, you're writing it, B, you're casting it, and you know your limitations and your talents. I'm sure if you didn't think you were right for something, you'd probably say, let's go cast someone else in that.
Yeah. No, and also, like, I'm not like, for instance, of The Ugly Truth, I'm not the main character. I just always like, for me, it's like in my movies, whatever we do, I also want to have at least one part in. If it's the main part or smaller part, doesn't matter. At least I want to be part of it, because that's also, I'm not only a producer, I also want to sort of act, because I just love acting. And yeah, and I just love all this. And with this, I mean, the idea was basically by Tyler and by George, and they caught me by surprise and talked me into this.
Well, I hope to see you guys work together. I mean, I watched, before we interviewed George, I watched, I think, all of Tyler's films that I could watch, because I was hoping to get an interview with him. Still am, you know, maybe we'll get one down the road. I watched Texas Cotton. I watched, the other one George was in. It's like a racetrack one.
Was that
yeah,
that?
Here Comes Rusty. That's, yeah, that
but
one.
Texas Cotton is really nicely done. And also, like, what George plays there, it's like really, it's awesome. George has a talent, but he's just somebody who's like, and the nice thing about him, he's not aware of what he's doing. He's just doing it. And he's like a child, just sort of like a child would say, I'm a cowboy now. And so I'm a cowboy. So what else? And this is what I like about him. And he's having so much fun. So on Cyst, I mean, he isn't that young anymore. And I frequently asked him I said, George, here's a chair. Now sit down, please. You're wasting your energy, because he's always up on his feet watching other people. I said, no, you sit down now. So I was constantly with him, like following him with a chair around, because George wouldn't sit down, because I said, you need a rest. You need to save some energy. You cannot just keep on going like that all day.
Well, I want to see what's next for you. Do you have anything lined up coming out besides the Sky Sharks is coming out this year, I guess, Cyst as well, and The Ugly Truth. Do you have anything that you are auditioning for or hoping to get, or what's next for Phantom Film as a production company?
Well, there are several things. So I shot an episode of the German Love Boat this year in Namibia. And that will be shown in Germany on the 1st of January 22, which is like a really great evening for people to watch. Like after New Year's Eve, they're like really tired. And so we shot that also during COVID lockdown, which was very interesting because it was like for the first time, usually when you shoot the Love Boat, you're shooting it on the cruise ship while it's working. And now it was just like an empty, like a studio, and was just on the dock. It wasn't moving. So we also had special effects guy with the green screen when we were like, but when we're like outside, so then it looks like the background is moving, like the ship is moving. So we had the whole ship to ourselves. And there we also had a little movie theater because there was nobody there besides the film crew. And in the movie theater, I also showed, we also have made a behind the scenes, like a 30-minute behind the scenes of Under Control. So we showed that. And so we had like a movie night each night with different stuff. And so this will be coming out. And also, I just auditioned for something for a Netflix miniseries. It's about a mass murderer who sort of kills women and puts them into acid, sort of have them dissolve. So it's actually based on a true story. Well, we'll see about that because he was like a real gentleman. He was like sort of Jack the Ripper, sort of, but I don't know. But he was a little bit like, what's it called? American Psychopath? Oh, what's it called? The one
American Psycho with Christian Bale.
Yes, exactly. Sort of like that. Sort of like a very two-faced guy, and he's a wonderful actor. He's also been in the lead of Dark, of that Netflix series. Have you seen Dark ever?
Yeah, I've seen some episodes. Yeah.
Sure. It's Oliver Masucci. I don't know how you would pronounce him. Plus, I'm planning to do a pilot movie for a series, which is for more like a target group of between 14 and 29. It is about 3 guys of the age of 17, and 18. And their main goal in life is to get as many goals as they can to get famous and to get a lot of money. And that is their goal. And whatever they do, it usually goes wrong. And so it is about their friendship and about that constellation. One of them is sort of like the boss that tells the others how to be a real macho, but they are not real machos. They're really bad at it because they just want to be something they are not yet. And it's very awesome to see them act together. And basically, I had casted them together in The Ugly Truth, and it worked so well that now we are doing a series out of that. And it basically is, in a way, it consists of those stories that you tell each other later, like when you're like 30 or older, like after 5 beers, you tell your friends, do you remember when we did this? Oh God, how it went wrong. So this series is about that. So it's very unusual for Germany. It is written by a Canadian guy called Nate Wilson. He's 25, and he already started doing movies when he was 19. He's writing the script, and I am supposed to receive it, tomorrow, hopefully. And then we're going to translate that into German because I want to shoot it in German anyway, because it's quite edgy. It shows a lot of sort of sex and drugs, and it's really... But I think it's very authentic also for the generation, sort of like, what do you want to become in life? I want to be a star. That's interesting or something. You see these 3 guys and they're very lovable and they still live at home because they have no money and their parents take care of them and say sort of like have a double life, sort of like with the guys, it's adventure pure, and at home they're like really sweet little kids. So it's about that. And it's called Girls. So this is what we're aiming for next. And so we're looking at shooting the pilot movie in the end of the year.
All right. That sounds awesome. And if someone wants to join your fan club and do the Zoom meetings with you, how do they go about doing that?
Oh, I have to give you the address of the fan club leader because he decides who gets in. And so at the moment, I think he decides that nobody just gets in. I can send it to you later. Then you can give it the email address and then you can be in the fan club. It's
That'd
not so difficult.
I would
it's
love
like
that.
A secret fan club. And we also we used to have like before COVID, we had real fan club meetings. So then basically like we would just sort of hire a restaurant and have like 50 people there, like always quite exclusive. And then I would just like come from table to each table and talk with everyone for like half an hour and sign autographs and talk to them. So it was my private FedCon kind of thing. But it's always really nice. And they're like so different people. What they do is like one is an engineer, the other one does this, the other one is a composer, an IT specialist, and yeah, very interesting.
And you didn't ask me to, so shut me down if you tell me no, but I wanted to make sure people knew you had a Cameo as well. You seem to have a lot of fun with the messages I saw up there. Cameo.com/Effa Habermann.
I love doing that. And I love the more information people give me, the more I can sort of talk to the person and tell them. And no, I really enjoy that. But it's also, I think it's part of me that I also like host traveling shows and I have no problems to talking into the camera. Or like some actors, they're actually really shy when they're not playing a role, but I feel very comfortable also just like being myself. And so cameos, I'm just like myself and just sort of try to figure out what the person might be and what she or him might want to hear and make them happy. And yeah, no, absolutely. You can promote my Cameo, then I can do more.
All right, I will. Well, I just want to thank you for your time, for coming on and spending, it's almost been an hour just talking to us and helping us learn a little bit more about, your career, but also film in general. And hey, you have to, you and Tyler or any director, you have to figure out something to come film. And I live in Florida. I'll be an extra on anything you come film down here. I just have to take time off from work and figure it out. But come film something here.
We can arrange that. Okay, we can arrange that. Yeah. You just have to talk to George. George usually just arranges movies by sort of like, but really, George is not planning movies, he's plotting movies by like, I ask him and her to come to the same place and then, So this is what George is like. He knows what he wants.
I got to tell you something weird that me and Saint and we have two other members that aren't here right now, but we have a little messenger thread. And so George has sent me emojis on Facebook in Messenger, and I don't understand what they mean. I think the first one he sent me was a hearing aid on an ear, and I said, "Hey George, what's going on?" And he didn't respond. And then I swear it was like a week or two, maybe a month later, he sent me like a pair of lungs, and I said, "George, what's going on?" And I haven't gotten a response, so I don't know. I think maybe it's an accident, or he's being kind of that weird George that I love.
I don't really understand. You mean George Hardy sent you those?
Yes, little here. I could probably pull it up. Little emojis. It's just the weirdest thing, and we haven't talked about it on the podcast because not many people will get it. Here we go. I don't know if you can.
I've always kind of felt like sometimes I hear actor Bill Murray. He'll do some random things to people and he won't explain what he's doing.
No, I think he doesn't know what he's doing sometimes. It was more like him trying to do something on his iPhone.
Yes. I love that. I just to get these random, I hope I get another one soon. But anyway, I want to thank the lovely Effa Habermann for joining us today on The Usual Saints. It's been a treat, and anytime you have anything to promote, come on, and we'll gladly have you on to talk about it or anything else you want to chat about.
Absolutely.
Yes, me too. And we'll meet in Alabama at George's house.
I would love to. I'll go.
Okay. I'll talk to George about it.
Yeah, schedule something. I'll come up. I got time to take off from work. My day job is not fun, so anytime I can get off from work, I'll take it.
Oh, you will love that, but you'll stay there forever then. And George will say, "Yes, stay here," because he's such a guy. Okay, and I'll send you the email of the fan club if you like.
All right, that sounds great. Effa Haberman, thank you for being on The Usual Saints. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. You've been listening to The Usual Saints.
Thank you.
Okay.
You could do a short C if you still want to be out by 7:30. Up to you.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, 7 podcast. What date? Man, what the hell? I'm getting messages from people. But yeah, if we get 7:30, I mean, if we go a little long, it's okay. 7:30, 7:45.
I don't have that much stuff to talk about. I just wanted I wanted to go back to the Richard Donner thing since we kind of cut it short, and then just a few other funny things. And then if you have anything else to add, we'll go. And we'll talk about the interview, obviously. Just short. Welcome back to The Usual Saints. We just had an awesome interview with Effa Haberman, actress, producer, writer, stage actor. I mean, she's, what do they call those? Not a jack of all trades is appropriate, but I know there's a different term that they use in the industry. I mean, she obviously can do everything. I mean,
Renaissance man or Renaissance woman. I don't know. That's kind of but jack of all trades kind of, I think, is more common.
Yeah. I didn't know what to expect from her besides her acting. So she was just open, honest. She was funny. Those are always our best interviews. I think the ones who, and I don't think we've had one that hasn't been, but anytime we can make it lighthearted, like you said, or bring a little humor, or just get stories that are beyond the norm, just because of our format, we can kind of go a little longer. That's what I love doing this for. If I can get an interview every week, that's my goal. So.
No doubt.
All right. So let's see. Did you have what were your thoughts on her? Because obviously you only saw Cyst. You didn't know much about her beforehand. What did you think of her?
Actually, after the interview, I definitely want to go and I'm going to see if I can find any of her other stuff. Like she said, she's going to give us a behind the scenes, which actually I'd be really interested in seeing that, like the behind the scenes of an independent film. That sounds like really interesting, right up my alley. But I'm going to check out some of her other work. If I could find any of it online or streaming, I'm not sure, but really interesting. I also wanted to see, I guess she said that's coming out in 2022, but she did an episode of The German Love Boat, which I found just fascinating, and did it during COVID. So that'd be something really interesting to see it. But no, she was great. She was, fun, had good stories, was, open about her process. I found it really interesting. Like you said, eventually, I think a lot of actresses fall into this. You hit a certain age and you kind of just get aged out of what Hollywood thinks, quote unquote, is the beauty. So it's like, well, fuck it. I guess I just got to make my own movies. And just to see someone who makes her own movies, whether it's, low independent movies or stuff that's going to be for bigger distribution, it's real cool when you just see someone who's just going for it and like, hey, this is what I want to do. And I make what I want to make. And there you go. You have to give her props to that. Anyone who's, willing to take control of their own careers, so to speak, and just be like, I'll make whatever I want to make and go from there, be CEO of your own film production studio. So I thought it was really cool.
Yeah. I mean, I tried to, I spent I don't know if it was a few hours, but it was a good amount of time, researching, because I like to make sure I come up with stuff that maybe they're not expecting or just beyond the norm, maybe what a normal short form interviewer would interview her with. And she's, when she told me she was a writer, I was impressed. Like, we've talked about writing screenplays, me and you, and I'm just like, that's impressive to me if anyone can do that. So, and I didn't want to come off as too creepy, but when she was talking about the aging out, like, and I wanted to make sure in all of her press interviews and old interviews, you see her talk about how she was always cast as like the young, blonde, sexy one or whatnot. I'm like, it's like beyond crazy to me that, hey, we just had her on a Zoom call with bad lighting in her apartment. Anyone who could say that she's not beautiful or has to be portrayed as like a mom or anything beyond that, that's just typical Hollywood or, film industry bullshit. Cause, you got to let people at least audition for, if not give them roles if they're appropriate for it. And, she, I think she knows what she can do. Like she said, she won't always put herself in the main role, but if she thinks she can do it, and if she's got the experience, I mean, she's got at this point, 30, no, not quite 30 years, in a few years, she'll be hitting 30 years of experience from her German television beginnings. But just to hear that honesty, because that's unfortunately the way the film business, that's what you hear about. And apparently it's kind of true. So like you said, to be able to produce your own films and put yourself out there and not necessarily force yourself into roles that might not be the best for you just to get the exposure. I feel like she's on that same page.
Yeah.
All right. So I want to go back to Richard Donner because we were talking about him. I think you were ending with Maverick. I like Maverick, but I think that was 15-year-old me laughing at the comedy of it at the time. It's kind of a broad general comedy, but it's got its moments, and I like poker, and so that kind of stuff was entertaining to me. But just to see his whole filmography. And like I said, I just didn't know he was still alive because the last movie he made was 15 years ago. But again, he made that when he was in his late 70s. So, I mean, I get the guy. I mean, you probably want to retire at some point.
Well, and then some directors, I mean, you got, what's the guy who did Aliens? He's still chugging along forever.
You talking about Cameron?
No. Alien.
Ridley Scott.
Ridley Scott, he's like in his 80s, and he's doing like 3 or 4 movies a year. Like I don't know. He may have some assistant directors who are doing most of the heavy lifting and stuff like that. But it seems like he's still cranking them out. I mean, Spielberg's in his 70s. He's still doing about a movie a year, and he's got West Side Story coming out later this year. But I mean, yeah, there's some who seem to trail off, and there's others who just keep cranking them out. So
right. All right. So let's see. What else do I want to talk about? Do you know who Mark Hoppus is?
Remind me.
It's okay. It might not be your type of music. Blink-182. He's basically the lead singer. He's not. Okay, he's not Tom DeLonge. He's Mark Hoppus.
Gotcha.
So we didn't touch on this a few weeks ago just because I failed, and plus the list got deleted. But and just for anyone who's heard about the topic list throughout all our episodes. One of these dipshits that wasn't me unless I was sleepwalking. And I don't want to put the blame on Saint. Might have been someone else. Deleted the list. And so the list we keep talking about with all the old news stories that are no longer relevant is gone. So we don't have to worry about covering those, even though we're going to try to rapid fire them. I think it would have been fun, but that's okay. But anyway, Mark Hoppus, he got diagnosed with cancer. He put it on Instagram. He's in his late 40s, and so he's lived a life. But I mean, I don't think he's not a drug, alcohol, like not an addiction guy that I'm aware of. But not that has anything to do with it. But it sucks that when someone, I'm a big Blink-182 fan. It sucks when someone who's created like basically almost a soundtrack to my late 20s, and to this day, I'll buy Blink-182 albums, even though they don't have Tom DeLonge anymore. It just sucks to hear that he's going through something. And, he posted a photo the other day of him, bald, he's going through chemo. So I'm just hoping the best for him. I just, when I saw that, it brought me down a little bit, but I wanted to bring it up, see if you had heard anything about it.
No. And now that you're mentioning it, I'm pulling it up right now. Yeah, that's man. I guess the biggest thing, and you see him bald because I wouldn't say known for, but when everything in Blink-182, you think of, Travis with the long hair, but then this guy had like a nice head of hair, and just to see him going through it, man, I guess it's just a reminder, man, it doesn't matter how much money, fame, like, your health, that's like number one, man. It'll come for anybody. And I think it would also, what sucks is me and, the wife are talking about, it's like you start feeling old when it's like people you grew up with, and slowly but surely, like year by year, everyone's just falling off and dying. And it's like, damn it. Like the same idea when DMX passed away a few weeks ago. And it's like DMX, that was basically my high school coming up. Yeah, those 2 albums you had in 99, dropping those 2 albums. I mean, that was a soundtrack for, my junior, senior year. I mean, I literally remember people going from No Limit, I don't know, Master P, make him say, how many people remember that? So when DMX hit, all that went away. And boy, New York made a comeback. And I grew up in Florida, and I know you grew up in Florida too. But when that DMX hit, it's like everyone, forget that New Orleans stuff. We are all back to New York, gritty stuff. And he was 50. I mean, it turned out he died away of a cocaine overdose, a heart attack induced by a cocaine overdose. But when you see, people you grew up with slowly passing on, you kind of start thinking about your own mortality, and I'm going to be 40. You're in your 40s. Yeah, man, you kind of just, oh man, getting old, not fun sometimes, but.
Yeah. And then there was X. That's like my jam. That's my album. I can put that on, and I know almost. I think I know almost all the words. But I mean, I've said this on prior podcasts. Early 20s and late teens when Perfect Dark came out for the Nintendo 64. Me and 3 friends, we popped that on. We play all the levels, and we put on. And then there was X, and we just be playing and listening. Those are some of the best memories I have, man. So yeah, I was going to bring up the DMX thing because they just ruled that it was a cocaine-induced heart attack that cut off the oxygen to his brain. So listen, I mean, no one ever thought DMX was a saint, but come on, kids, stay away from drugs, man. This shit, it's too dangerous, especially nowadays, without getting too serious, like fentanyls and everything. And I know fentanyl isn't what did it, but you can't take a chance anymore. Like I've talked to my daughter about drugs and shit. And I'm like, listen, you might want to try something, but I said, it's just too dangerous. And I'd rather you not. And, if you feel like you're going to get peer pressured into it, you can always call me. But, it's overdose, just the bad things. It's not even just death. Like you could have a severe, like, thing that fucks you up for the rest of your life. And that might be worse than death. And, there's no point into it besides having a little bit of fun. And admittedly, I've only ever smoked marijuana, so I don't know. But yeah, it sucks when even someone who's 50, like you said, that's who we grew up with. And now it's like, God.
Yeah. Just to harken back to that. Yeah. I mean, eventually gonna have to talk with my kids about it too. And hopefully marijuana is the only thing that I have to, hopefully they deal with. I mean, I've been, again, no pun intended, haven't been a saint myself, but it's the stuff you get nowadays is just super strong. It's way more pure than the stuff you get back in the day, and you just don't know how your body's gonna affect you. I just hope like someone at DMX at the age of 50, and not in the greatest of health, just to be at a point in his life where he didn't, feel like drugs, were something that he still needed to have in his life. Not passing any judgment on anyone or how anyone chooses to live. But, it's just unfortunate that, still at that age, still doing those type of things. A lot of times you find out, people when they get into their 40s, that's when, you start becoming even more health conscious and start thinking about those things. So, yeah, I totally agree, man. Just, it's, not gonna lie. Let's keep it 100, man. People do drugs because drugs are fun in certain environments. But like you said, man, there's a lot of danger. That fentanyl, like you said, the stuff nowadays, man, it's just different. And I'm sure every generation says that. I'm sure back in the 60s, they said, oh man, the weed you guys are smoking now, it's all scientifically, biology, super high grade stuff. But yeah, that other stuff you get, you don't know what you're putting in your body now. And people are just not upfront. Can't trust them. They'll cut whatever you think you have with whatever. So totally agree on that tip. So RIP to Mark, or no, he's not dead. RIP to DMX. I'm sorry.
Don't kill Mark.
Sorry. I meant the DMX, and I hope Mark, gets a full recovery.
All right. I want to end on a nice, funny, and yet really annoying towards the end of it note. You have Facebook, right? Do you scroll through it on a regular basis, or?
Yeah, a lot less than I mean, Facebook is the one that's I'm like month by month, year by year, I get less and less. I get on there like once every, and I feel bad because I still like to say happy birthday to people, or hey, my kid just graduated, or I got a degree, and I always like to at least tell people congratulations, that kind of stuff. But I'm on there like, especially on the boat, like I'm usually I stay on Twitter and then occasionally Instagram, so I get my news. But Facebook is one that I almost feel like I'm almost to the point where I feel like I can get rid of it if it wasn't for those birthday kind of things. So yeah,
the only reason I bring up Facebook because I'm bringing up memes, and sorry, you there? Hello, can you hear me? Hello, check. Can you hear me? Say hello.
You're paused, but there you go.
Better.
Yep.
You know, I pay for the 1 gig internet connection, Comcast, you motherfucker. Why can't you fix this shit? I have every program on my on my computer turned off except for Zoom. All right. Anyway, let's stop ranting about Comcast and how much they suck. But anyway, I was going to talk about the memes. You probably saw them on Twitter or Instagram. Vin Diesel and the family memes, basically inserted into every movie that you could imagine. I wanted to see if you'd caught these. I assume you have, being the internet savvy guy you are.
Yes,
and what
they're all over
are.
Twitter. They were all over Twitter too. So
yeah, they're all over the place. I mean, anything. He was in the middle of the Avengers. I saw him in Star Wars. I saw him killing who did he kill? In Guardians of the Galaxy 2, he killed Star-Lord's dad, the planet, because he put a tumor in mom's brain and she's family. So eventually
he saved Mufasa in The Lion King because that's family. Yeah, family. Like, Jesus.
Since we talked about F9 on the last podcast and you did your whole family rap, I thought when I saw all those memes literally like the day after, I mean, they were a little bit around before that, but I got a huge kick out of it. Eventually they got really annoying. Like I said, it led from laughing to annoying, but then I went back to laughing. It depends on the meme. If it's funny enough, I'm going to laugh at it. But I wanted to talk to you about it and see what your thoughts on those were, because they were literally unavoidable, I think, for the past 2 weeks.
I mean, I get it. And for people, I've come to this point where, like, again, the reason I wanted to do a movie podcast, TV show podcast is I'm generally considered a hater, like, especially on the boat. Like, guys will be like, "Oh, did you see this movie?" I'll be like, this movie's kind of trash. Like, I don't understand but then again, like you said, you have 20 books you have to get to. I find, and I have a whole bunch of audiobooks and stuff I have to get to. It's like, why are you guys wasting your time watching these garbage movies? I mean, these movies, they're not even respecting your time and intelligence. And that's why I feel the Fast and Furious movies have gotten to. It's cookie cutter, but then, like, we're going to take ridiculous stunts, which I guess is the point, right? Ridiculous car stunts and ridiculous thing. But we're going to have Vin Diesel in there. He goes, "It's all about family. Family." And is this supposed to be the emotional tie? And I'm supposed to believe all these things? Not only, okay, let's go on a rant. We're supposed to be talking about family, right? But what's the guy from Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels? Jason
Statham.
Jason Statham. He literally killed somebody, and I heard that somehow they resolved it in Fast 9. I'm like, I don't care. But literally, Jason Statham's supposed to be the guy who killed Han in a movie, and yet he's chilling with them drinking Coronas at the end of another movie. I seen someone say, like, this happens. It's like, I thought it was all about family, but this guy killed your family. So how is he now part of the family? Anyway.
Well, it's also the whole John Cena's his brother thing, and yet since 21 years ago, family's been the biggest thing. But yet you make your brother to leave, as we find out in this one, never mentioned until part 9.
I mean, of course, you got to do so. So again, just all the more reasons why this franchise should be done with. And when, I guess whenever Vin Diesel, sure. Until Fast 12, 5 years later. Oh, wait, there was more family. We found more family. Just whatever.
At some point, he's going to have to stop wearing the white tank tops because he's going to age out. But I mean, I just remember watching this movie on a DVD, that shows the age of the series itself 21 years ago. I think I bought it. I don't think I saw it in theaters. I saw the first one. I bought it, and I really enjoyed the first one. It was good. It was about street racing. It had some of the young actors of the time. Obviously, Paul Walker. Vin Diesel, it turns out, wasn't such a young actor, but he was an actor. He was coming up.
He was like 30 in the first one, right?
I feel like he was at least that. I don't know how old he is now, but I feel like he's got to be pushing 60.
No, he's in his 50s. He was like 30 in that first Fast and Furious movie, which is just crazy. Him and Rodriguez.
He's only 53. So 21 years ago, that would have made him 32, 30, 33, 32 when he would put that one out. So, I mean,
you're freezing up again. You want to say that again?
Yeah. But I don't want to edit. No. Can you hear me now?
I got you now.
Okay. I said, but I don't want to edit. I mean, he was 53. He's 53 now. So that means he was 31, 32 when he filmed the first one. Does that age him out? No, because it wasn't like he was playing a teenager. Because Paul Walker was playing a cop undercover, so is what it is. But just to see everyone kind of grow up, the ones that survived the film franchise, and to, like you said, it's kind of the ridiculousness of it now. I mean, where do they go now? Do they go into the core of the earth in the next one? I can't think of the next place to go. So,
hey, again, I'm not watching them, so they can. Why not? Hey, I hope they do things so ridiculous that fans are just like, okay, yeah, drive cars to the center of the earth. Might as well. It makes as much sense as the rest of it. So.
All right, so let's wrap this week up. I want to make sure I get that edited and over to Effa, right? Effa. All right, I want to get that over to her, and I'll send you that link that she sends to us for whatever material. If she sends over links to screeners of her other films, or unless I can find them somewhere. I mean, I'm always about trying to do as much research as possible. I just couldn't find them in time. But again, I want to thank her for coming on the show today. That was a great interview. Saint, thanks for being here as usual. If you guys want to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, it's The Usual Saints. We got a Facebook group. You can go to the website, theusualsaints.com. That's where everything is, including the interview and everything once I edit it and put it up there. You can email us, usualsaints@gmail.com, or on the website, we have our own email addresses. You can call us 240-724-6877, leave a voicemail. When we do live, you can call in, but I didn't do it this time. My bad. And that's it for this week of The Usual Saints. Saints, we'll miss you. See if I can get the other dipshits to show up next time. If not, maybe I'll have to find a backup or try to do one myself, which is a daunting task and I'm not looking forward to, but we'll see. Any closing comments before you leave us until October?
No, it's been fun. I'll try to get whatever I can out from the boat whenever I get some free time or get a decent Wi-Fi reception. I'll try to either record something and send it to you, or try to hit you up, plan something if available, or if you can set something up with anybody recording anytime. Just let me know, and I'll see. Maybe I can jump in for like 5-10 minutes, add my little spew, and hopefully be back soon enough and doing this again.
All right, man. Well, I look forward to it. So again, for Saint, and I'm Mike D. I think that's my name. And you've been listening to The Usual Saints, and we'll be back soon with another brand new episode and maybe some cool interviews and maybe Jeremy and Vinny. So thanks for listening.
Peace.